It's day 3 of the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis. Day 2 of player interviews. I'm Steven, that's Andrew, and that's Stefan. We talked with Ohio State's cornerbacks Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock, along with safety Lathan Ransom. Truthful group. I feel like we just kind of hit a lot of different topics with those guys, from a new defensive backs to a tight end situation to wide receiver conversation, quarterback conversation. We did another video on that. You should go check that out. But Stefan, what is something you learned from Ohio State's defensive backs on day 2 of interviews here at the NFL Combine?
Yeah, I'm going to go to one of the things you alluded to, the tight end situation. Lathan Ransom told us pretty straight up. Well, he started telling us, and then I think he thought, well, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, so he kind of backed off from it. He basically said when Ohio State beat Purdue in November that it was 45-0 in Columbus. After that game, Lathan Ransom basically went up to Keenan Bailey, Ohio State's tight ends coach, and was like, Max Clare, that tight end at Purdue, if he's in the portal, go get him. I think everyone could kind of see the writing on the wall with Purdue, right? Their coach was going to get fired. There was going to be players that go into the portal. An all Big Ten tight end at a situation that's bad is going to want to go somewhere that a situation is good. I would categorize Ohio State as a good situation. We were talking about Julian Saint, what he can be in the other video. Like, Max Clare was going to want to go to a better situation. And having the guy who had to guard him, who had to match up with him a lot, who had to hold him to two receptions for 13 yards in a season where he's an all Big Ten player, that's high praise, right? That's Lathan Ransom telling us every time we put on the film that week, that guy was the first person we talked about. That guy was immediately someone we noticed. I believe those were Lathan Ransom's words. Like, Lathan is very smart. And in scouting players, I think he realizes if I'm a very good safety, I'm a very good football player, I have to spend a lot of time scouting someone, that guy's probably pretty good. He talked that same way about Tyler Warren at Penn State. He's probably going to be the number 1 tight end taken off the board at the NFL draft. Well, guess who's the number 1 tight end in the country returning to college football next year? Probably Max Clare, right? Like, there's been programs like Georgia that have produced good tight ends, and we'll see. Maybe there's someone that comes along, but if you're looking at the numbers and the situation that they're going into, it's hard to say that Max Clare isn't at least one of the 5 best tight ends in college football. And hearing the guy that had to defend him say that is promising, because there's going to be a lot of defensive backs next year who are defending Max Clare who are not as good as Lathan Ransom. And he thought it was a problem. It's going to be a problem for them.
Did anybody ask Lathan about him sacrificing running backs on the way to a national championship?
He got asked about the best running backs he faced. I think he talked a bit about kind of his run defense, and he talked about Tennessee's running back. He talked about Oregon's running back. He did it nicely. If I was up on a stage, I would have said, hey, remember when those guys didn't want to play football anymore?
Yeah. He didn't want to indict himself for football murder. Not real-life murder, just football murder. Andrew, what'd you learn from the DBs today?
So learn is an interesting word here, because I think it's maybe a realization that I had. So I was over at Jordan Hancock, right behind the camera, and Jordan was talking about his NFL draft process with meetings. And, I mean, the way these things work, have you met with the Falcons? Was it informal or formal? And everybody kind of goes down the list, and then you get to the point where he says, they're looking at me as a defensive back that can do a lot of different things. He said, I view myself, I asked him this question, he said, I view myself as a corner that can play safety. He played in the slot. He could play on the outside. We saw him play at safety. We saw him do a whole bunch of stuff. And as these things go, you ask Denzel Burke, tell me about Devin Sanchez. You ask, we asked Jordan Hancock, who could step up into the slot. He named Bryce West. He named Miles Lockhart. He named Lorenzo Styles. They're obviously going to say, these young guys are going to take our, they're going to take our job and they're going to do great. But the thing that I thought of as he was going through all these guys, and, as Denzel Burke lists some of these guys, Ohio State needs to find, or it would very much benefit them to find, a player that can be that chess piece on the 2025 defense. And I don't know who that is right now. Because
he wears number 2.
Well, so that's the thing. So Downs does a lot of different things, but you're moving him around, and you're moving him up top, you're moving him in the box. I'm wondering if there's a player on this roster right now who can play outside corner, who can play slot corner, and who can play safety. Because right now we don't really know what the cornerback situation is. It's very talented, right? I mean, you look at Davison Igbinosun's coming back. Jermaine Matthews will be back. You have Aaron Scott, a former 5-star. Devin Sanchez, the rising 5-star. You've got a lot of talent there. At safety, yes, you have Superman on the back end. We don't know who's going to play next to him yet. We have some ideas. We don't know yet. The thing that I'm curious about, and the thing that Jim Knowles was able to do so well throughout the course of the season, was put 3 safeties on the field with Hancock back up top, was move Hancock around. You had him as a great cover corner, and he was talking about his draft process and naming all of these guys that could, help fill his role. And I just started to think to myself, I don't know if there's any one of these guys that can do what he did. And I'm curious what can happen, because when you have that type of player, a player that can do a bunch of different roles, obviously Caleb Downs can do a lot. Play him at the line of scrimmage, do all those things. I'm talking play specific positions. And I don't know if there is that guy on the 2025 team, at least as it stands right now. And I think that's an interesting storyline, because when you have that type of piece, that's a great chess piece for a defensive coordinator. And Matt Patricia would really, really benefit from having someone like that. And I think we got to find out who that is.
We got to figure out what the scheme is, because to your point, they had 3 safeties last year who could play all 3 safety spots. Right. So pre-snap, post-snap, they could do a lot of different stuff. Because, again, old defense, and all of them had been in the system for multiple years, and the only one who hadn't was the best safety in the country, so he'll pick it up pretty quickly. So when you're going from old to young like that, you probably – there's just some creative stuff that they might not be able to do week 1. So there's some things they have to figure out. I wasn't there when Jordan Hancock was talking, because I was talking with other people. There's a lot going on, man. It's the combine. But podium, we haven't been over at podium. This is the most we've done at podium number 3. Everybody else has been at 4 and above. But I did listen back, and I asked Stefan to do this for me, and he did it. Teammates, you know what I'm saying? Teammates. He asked.
I am the chess piece.
I'm Caleb Downs. Trump card. Lathan. Lathan's. That's me to Lathan Ransom and Andrew.
No, it was not about Lathan.
No, but we're going to, if Lathan sees this, come for him. Just him. We're innocent. Sorry. But you asked him about Brandon Ennis. And in the midst of him having conversations about Brandon Ennis, I hear dogs in the background barking. And it just feels so poetic and on brand. Because I think the question that they popped up when you're asking him about leadership, and they just start barking in the background, and it just makes for the perfect lead. The reason why I bring that up is Brandon Ennis is going to be a weapon this year. Jordan Hancock said he has the ability to do what Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith-Njigba did in the slot. You just brought up Max Clare as well. Jeremiah Smith is only 19 years old. He's going to be here for 2 more years. There were multiple cornerbacks from other schools who talked about how underrated Carnell Tate is. There's a lot of weapons on this team, and Brian Hartline and Ryan Day and the rest of this coaching staff are going to have to figure out how to maximize all of them, because there's one ball. Which is why we've had conversations about Max Clare is a great receiving tight end, but you've also got 3 great receivers. You've also got James Peoples, who Lathan Ransom said, we're not talking about him enough. We've been talking about him, but we can up it a little bit more how much we're talking about. But there's a lot of weapons. You need to figure out your quarterback, but there's a lot of weapons for whoever ends up being the starting quarterback here. And you've got a new play caller, him and Ryan Day and Keenan Bailey and Tyler Bowen and Carlos Lachlan. They're going to have to figure it out. Billy Fester are going to have to figure it out, because one ball, and I just named like 5 or 6 guys who deserve to get the ball 80 times this year. So how does that go about it? Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to run the 2015 situation where you had more weapons than you know what to do with, and so you ended up kind of counting touches, and it kind of hurts you later on in the season. Ryan Day says that you got to find your fastball. What's going to be their fastball, and how quickly can they find it, and how impactful can it be, and then can you work off of that going forward? So mine wasn't necessarily about one person. It was about everybody that got talked about, and they went, man, whoever's the quarterback, a lot of weapons, but they got to figure out what their best weapon is. And unfortunately, I don't know how much they're going to be able to do that in the Texas game, because it's a week 1 top 10 opponent. But you come out of that game, you come up for air, and then you spend the next 6 or 7 games figuring that out and put yourself in a position to go compete to repeat as national champions. We'll continue to discuss this on Buckeye Talk. Get the text 614-350-3315. Stefan, Andrew, I'm Steven. Day 3 at the NFL Combine. Quarterbacks are up next, wide receivers and running backs as well. And Will Howard is expected to throw later this week. At least right now, we're expecting that to be the case. And so we'll be bringing all that news and analysis to you on Buckeye Talk. See ya.